Hey everybody, and welcome to your final day for the Pythagorean theorem. Today we're going to be working with solids, and we're going to be using this formula to solve some more complex problems. Again, I don't think it's too tough, but again, if you struggle with this at all, if it's not making sense, reach out to me on Schoology, and I will set up a conference where we can work together, and I can solve some of these problems with you. So, hope you're doing great. Hope you're doing wonderful. Hopefully you're doing some super cool stuff with your family, and you're staying safe. So let's get right into it. So you can use the Pythagorean theorem to solve problems with solids. So for instance, if we took the height of the Great Pyramid of Giza, it's about 480 feet, which shows in the picture. It says, and the length of the side of its square base is about 756 feet. It says the drawing below shows how you can visualize a right triangle and a cross section that passes the vertex of the square pyramid and its perpendicular base. And so the question is for this one, before we say, oh my gosh, that just seems confusing, is what is the slant height of the Great Pyramid? So if we take a look here, and I know I talk about this all the time, but I am just loving this super cool tool I got here to write stuff. We don't know what this is, or we can call that C. We don't know what C is because that's going to be the longest length. The question is, what is this length here? And if that is going to be perpendicular, that is going to be halfway for the length here. So I'm going to take 752 and to find this length, because I need this length here to be able to solve for C, the longest length, because this is, we can call it our A and this is our B. Then I have to divide this by 2 because this is halfway. If this is the full way is 756. We can divide that by 2. And if we divide that by 2, 756 divided by 2, we get 378. 378. Well, these are big numbers here, but now we have both of these numbers. We have our A and our B. We can use that. We can plug it into our formula, A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and we can solve this. We can solve this problem. So, and here it is, right here. So it's already done for us for the first one. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Forget about this AB and this BC. Don't worry about that. That's just using the line segments here. But we can plug that in. We can find the square root, and it's going to give us approximately 611 feet. So we can use the Pythagorean theorem to solve problems with solids. Again, you can take any right triangle of anything, and as long as you have 2 of the sides, you can always find the third side. So we're going to use that to solve each of these problems. Let's start with this one right here. It is pretty simple. So what I'd like you to do, if you'd like you to pause this, this video for a second, see if you can solve this problem on your own, and then fire it back up, see if you get the same answer as me. Now, if you don't want to do that, again, that's perfectly fine. You can follow along right now because we're going to start right now. So, so Susan uses a cone-shaped paper cup shown to get some water from a water cooler. What is the depth of the water, the paper cup? It says, round your answer to the nearest tenth. Again, get this out of here. I get these all the time, and they always interrupt stuff. Gotta get it out of there. Gone. So first thing I like to do is we're going to label this. Let's label this A. We don't know this side. This is our unknown B, and this is going to be our C. So we do know that. So we're going to write this first as A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And then we can just plug it in. We know that 5 squared plus, we don't know our B squared equals 10 squared. And then you guys know what to do from here. We're just going to solve this. This is going to be 25 plus B squared equals 100. And we're just going to take this and we're going to take away 25 from both sides. Very similar to what we did last week. This is an easier one to start us off, and then we'll get into some more complex stuff. So this here, again, we don't want to know what B squared is. We want to know what B is. We're going to find the square root. Again, we're going to use our calculator for this. We're going to round this to the nearest tenth. And we're going to say second, 75. That comes to 8.66. And then a bunch of other stuff. We're going to round that to 8.7. And that's going to be centimeters. And we're just going to circle that. And guys, we have just completed the first one. Super easy. Let's take on the next one. It's a little bit tougher. So, number 2, we say that a figure shows a cubic stool of side length 15 inches. It says the length of the diagonal of the base, EF, is the square root of 450 inches. It says find the length of the central diagonal, or DF. It says find both the exact value and the approximate value to the nearest tenth. So first we take a look at this problem. I like to use the picture. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label all the parts that I need to solve this. So I need to find DF, which is going to be this diagonal length, which is going to be my C. That's my longest length because it's directly across from my 90 degrees. And second, if this is 15 right here, and this is a cubic stool, then I know that this length right here is 15. So this can be my A, and the square root of 450 is my B. That looks a little, unique. How do I go about solving that? That looks kind of weird. Well, let's just check it out. So we know, first, we always start with our formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And we know that A is 15, and we're going to square that. And we're going to take the square root of 450, and we're going to square that. And you're like, oh, that part doesn't really make sense. We'll cover that in a second. Equals C squared. Okay, well, if you remember from the very beginning of September, 15 squared is 225. And the question is, what the heck do you do right here? Well, I want you to take a look here. I'm going to put a little example. I'm going to say the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 9 equals 3. Well, if I was to square both of these, if I was to square this side, then I'd have to square this side. And watch what happens. If I square this side here, the answer is 9. So what do you think happens when you take the square root of 9 and you square it? Well, it just wipes out that square root. Gets rid of it because this is the root of the square. And the opposite of that is squaring. So it's going to be equal to 9. So the square of that here just eliminates, wipes out this square root. So here, the square root of 450 squared is just 450. Very important to note. That's just going to be 450. So from there, we can add those together. That's going to be what? 675 equals C squared. And we can just find the square root of that to get, and use our calculators here. 25.98, I'm going to round that to 26 inches. You know what? I'm going to go back for a second. I realized I need to label here. Actually, no, I did. Never mind. Mr. Schreiber, you're on it. Okay. So, very first one, again, we're just going to plug in our A, B, and C. And watch out, my cat is coming in here. Get out of here. This is Harry, by the way. He's been watching me do these videos, and he likes to participate. And he also kind of likes to, kind of get into things and ruin things. So, Harry, we're just going to pick you up right now. We're going to say hi to the students. Can you say hi? Hi, students. How we doing? And then we're going to go down. Hopefully, he doesn't bother us again. But if he does, he's a very nice cat, even though he does eat everything. He does eat everything. So, guys, we're going to do one more example. This is it. This is the only example we're going to do that's going to hopefully help you solve the rest of these problems today. It's not a very difficult lesson, but this one's kind of a tougher one. So let's read it together. A spider sits in a corner of a tank shaped like a rectangular prism. The tank is 16 inches long, 6 inches wide, and 8 inches high. The spider starts to make a web by spinning a length of silk that stretches tightly from one corner along a central diagonal to the opposite corner. That's a lot of information. So we're going to do two parts here. We're going to find the length of the diagonal of the rectangular floor of the tank, which is going to be, look at my cursor right now, right here. And then we have to also find the length of the silk the spider spins from one corner of the tank to the other corner, which if you see the spider right here, I'm not a fan of spiders, by the way. And so this would not make me very happy of them spinning a web from here to here. So here's the problem. The problem is, look at the information they gave us. They gave us this is 6, this is 13, and this is 8. So I know if this is 8, I need to find this value right here. And I know that this value right here is, 1 second. Let me get that out of the way. That made a mistake. User error. Get this out of the way. Let's try this again. Try it again. And I know if this is 8 here, then this is also going to be 8. The problem is I don't know this length here. I don't know this length. But what do I know? I do know that if this is 6 here, then this has to be 6 here. And if you guys take a look right here, we know this is 90 degrees. So forget about everything else and just watch my cursor. I know if that is 6, I can use that to solve this angle right here. Because this is 13, this is 6. I can use this as A, I can use this as B, and this is going to be my C. So forget about everything else. If we wiped out, forget about these 8s. Just focus right here. This is going to be 6. This is going to be 13. And that is going to be a 90-degree angle. So we can solve that first. Let's go over here, and we're going to say A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And again, all we're doing is we're solving first this line here. And once we solve that, then we can solve the other line. So we have to solve the first one first. So A would be 13 squared plus 6 squared equals C squared. And 13 squared, if you guys remember, is 169 plus 36 equals C squared. We're going to scroll this down and let's solve that. Let's add that together. 169 plus the 36 gives you 205 equals C squared. And then to get rid of that, we're going to do the square root. And we're going to round that to 14.3 inches. So again, what we did here is you have to solve one piece before you solve the other. So we can erase this, and we now know what this longer length is right here. And we know that that is equal to 14.3. Let's plug that in. So now we know this length. Again, what we did was we know that's 6 by 13. We used that to solve that. Now, let me erase this again. Get all this other junk out of the way. And I just want you to focus on we have to find what that spider spun for his web for that right there. So now we have the pieces of information we need. This is going to be C, this is going to be our A, and this is going to be our B. We had to solve this first and get this piece of information before we could solve for this diagonal. We couldn't do that before. So we know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And we're going to say A is 8, so 8 squared. Now we have that new line, 14.3 squared equals C squared. Getting a little off base here. That is going to be 64 plus, let's square 14.3. We can use our calculator for that one. And we're going to say that is 204.49 equals C squared. And let's add that together. So we're going to get 268.49 is equal to C squared. We're then going to take that. We're going to find the square root. And we're going to get 16. We're going to round that to the nearest tenth, 16.4. And we're going to say that is going to be 14.3 inches, and 16.4 inches for the spider web. We can circle that. That is a bad circle, not the best. Let's get this out of the way. Let's try that one more time. I'm gonna hit myself. Oh, just hit myself in the head. And guys, that's it. You guys can use the Pythagorean theorem to solve any type of solids. We have a few problems that I want you guys to try out. They are a little tricky. If you are struggling with this at all, please contact me, let me know, and I can run a conference with you to kind of help you out. So hopefully you guys understood this. Hopefully you're doing great, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. Bye, guys.